Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Steelers prove Super Bowl hopes hinge on delicate hamstring of George Pickens. We've now witnessed 2 straight games without George Pickens taking the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and fans have already seen enough. The absence of Pickens in Week 14 wasn't too great to overcome against a now 3-11 Browns team, but this was anything but the case against the Eagles in Week 15. Though we need to give Philadelphia their flowers for playing a great game at home when the Steelers were in town, Russell Wilson's offense couldn't move the football without their top weapon. With no go-to wide receiver who could create space and make plays routinely, the Eagles were able to stack the box and make Pittsburgh's rushing attack irrelevant. By the end of the one-sided contest, the Steelers managed a dismal 163 yards of offense compared to 401 yards for the Eagles, while Philly nearly doubled Pittsburgh in time of possession. With no reliable option to turn to, Wilson finished the game completing 14 of 22 passes for 128 yards, a mere 5.8 yards per attempt. This offense's incompetency without Pickens had a ripple effect on the Steelers' defense. Pittsburgh began the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs. On their 4th drive, the Steelers went backward, netting -8 yards on 4 plays. They were back to another 3-and-out on their next possession. Mike Tomlin's team shamefully netted -19 yards in their first 5 possessions of the game, and Pittsburgh's utter lack of ball control forced the defense to be overworked from the gate. Last week, the numbers weren't quite so egregious, but against a bad Browns team, the Steelers failed to win the time of possession battle and the yardage battle. Now in 2 games without Pickens, Pittsburgh is averaging a disgusting 215 total yards and a sickening 25,04 time of possession per game, out of 60,00. Statistically, the worst total offense in the league entering Week 15 is the Chicago Bears, as they average just 288.2 yards of offense per game, narrowly falling behind the Carolina Panthers at 288.9. When you put this into perspective, 215 yards per game over the last 2 contests is inexcusable. Furthermore, the worst team in terms of time of possession per game is the Indianapolis Colts at 26,41 per contest. The Steelers have a minute and a half less time of possession per game compared to the 32nd-ranked team in this department when Pickens doesn't play. While we have only seen a 2-game sample without Pittsburgh's top offensive weapon, the results have been worse than anyone could have imagined. Unfortunately, the Steelers' Super Bowl hopes hinge entirely on the health of Pickens. The star receiver suffered a hamstring injury just days before the Browns game. We quickly learned that this was a grade 2 hamstring strain, and he was instantly listed as doubtful against the Eagles, a game he would ultimately miss. We've seen these injuries occur to other NFL receivers just this year. Both Texans' Nico Collins and Buccaneers' Mike Evans missed a minimum of 3 games with the same ailment. Collins missed a 5-game stretch with this injury from Week 6 to Week 10, and Houston went just 2-3 without him. You're not going to win many football games if you can't move the ball or keep your offense on the field for a respectable amount of time. Pickens' hamstring injury has been a nightmare Steelers fans are dying to wake up from. With the Steelers clinching a playoff spot thanks to outside help in Week 15, the only focus right now should be on getting Pickens healthy and back up to speed for whoever Pittsburgh will face in the wild card round of the postseason. Entering the tournament won't mean much if the Steelers don't have their only cog that makes the offense run. Based on the small sample we've seen without him, the Steelers wouldn't stand a shot to compete for a Super Bowl if George Pickens doesn't get healthy soon. Browns expected to bench QB Jameis Winston after repeated interceptions. Jameis Winston led the Cleveland Browns to wins over the Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers this season. Now he will be watching from the bench, as the team is making a change at quarterback. With 3 games remaining, the Browns are expected to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson. A 2023 fifth-round pick, Thompson-Robinson started 3 games as a rookie, his only win coming against the Steelers. He has played in 4 games this season, having yet to start. His most extensive action came in the game in which Deshaun Watson suffered a season-ending injury. This past week, he played the final 14 snaps after the Browns benched Watson. For the 3rd time this season, Jameis Winston threw 3 interceptions in the Browns' loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. It was also the first start in which he failed to produce a touchdown. The former first overall pick is 181-4-296 on the season for 2,121 yards with 13 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. As always, many pundits jumped the gun insisting that the Browns have to bring Jameis Winston back next season. Not just to bring him back but to make him their starter, because they can't start Deshaun Watson again. While starting Watson is a terrible solution, turning to Winston is little better, if at all. We know that a big part of winning and losing in football is taking care of the ball, H.C. Kevin Stefanski said, via the Browns website, when addressing whether Winston would continue to start. We also know that you have to play a style of football that gives yourself a chance to make yards. So, there are times that you're aggressive, there's times that you're not based on what the situation is. Over his last 3 starts, Jameis Winston threw 6 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. In a 41-32 loss to the Denver Broncos, he threw for 497 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he also threw 3 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. After the game, he went viral for saying he would pray to God to spare him from more pick-sixes. While Winston did not throw any pick-sixes in the following 2 games, he did throw 5 more picks. And God couldn't spare him from the bench, as he will presumably watch Dorian Thompson-Robinson for the remainder of the Browns season. Notably, in the game in which Watson went down, the Browns actually dressed Thompson-Robinson over Winston as the backup quarterback. Winston started the next game as well as every game subsequent, but he is out of chances now. The Steelers already eliminated the Browns from playoff contention weeks ago, so they have nothing left to play for. While Jameis Winston makes big-time throws, he also makes crucial mistakes that keep them from winning. In addition to his 12 interceptions, Winston also has 5 fumbles. The good simply doesn't outweigh the bad. And now at 30 years old, it's unlikely another team will give him a chance to start. Even the Browns didn't, despite Watson being awful. And they aren't going with Dorian Thompson-Robinson because he's some diamond in the rough. Aaron Rodgers broke down what makes Steelers' Mike Tomlin such a great coach. Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin is highly regarded as one of the league's top coaches year after year, especially as he's posted a non-losing record in all 18 seasons with the Steelers. When talking about influential coaches in the league on the Pat McAfee Show, New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers mentioned Tomlin as someone who he's always admired. Everyone he's talked to who played for Tomlin has enjoyed playing for him. There's only one Mike Tomlin, first and foremost, and you have to give Mike credit. He's got the special sauce, Rodgers said. He seems to understand how to motivate his guys every single year. For him to not have a losing season is absolutely ridiculous. I've always respected Mike from afar, and I think he's done one hell of a job in Pittsburgh. The Jets are currently in the process of trying to find a new head coach for the 2025 season after Robert Saleh was fired earlier this season. Rodgers previously cited Detroit Lions coach Dan Campbell as an example of a situation where the team's ownership was really involved in hiring Campbell. It's assumed that Rodgers doesn't believe the Jets' ownership has shown support for their coaching staff. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Aaron Rodgers? Leave your opinion in the comments.